So most of them went out on the porch yesterday. A few days ago, we laid down plastic to make it easier to clean up. Originally, I thought laying down plastic, I'd be able to just use a garden hose and spray it down. But then I got to thinking that during the colder climates, that the evaporation rate is pretty much non-existent, because as the temperature gets colder, it becomes already more saturated with moisture, at least in the Pacific Northwest. Therefore, it becomes meteorologically or physically, I'm not certain the appropriate phrase, but the capacity of the atmosphere to carry extra moisture is reduced. So I put a second layer of plastic over so that I could roll it up when the chickens were done. And that was a success. I took that rolled up plastic. When I put the chickens back inside their coop, the inside coop, sprayed it down, hung it up on the gate to air dry, and I'll get some clothespins and make it so that in the future it stays hanging up and let gravity do its thing. Anyway, the 10 of them out of 12 went outside, and they huddled on the top step closest to the door. I put up a clear shower curtain as well as a child gate to keep them from running back inside and pooping all over the front room. Kept them, so, and that's the reason for the plastic is, if you're not aware, chickens will do their business anywhere. When they're walking, when they're chirping, when they're eating, when they're drinking, when they're sitting, when they're sleeping. No matter where they're at, no matter what's under them, when it's time to go, they don't care who knows. So, it's difficult to put into scale based off the camera, but if you go back just 2 months ago at the initial videos that I put up of the chickens, you'll see not only a massive change in color from little yellow poof balls to these dark red feathered dinosaurs. And you'll also see the size difference from what they were to where they are at. I put together a 5-gallon watering can with the nipple tappers, where they tap it with their beak and it disperses water. They haven't quite figured that out, so I think I'm going to see about getting some cups to use instead, because at least with cups, I can fill the cups by hand, and they can come along and drink from the cups that have water dispensed to it already. The base has worked phenomenal. I've kept it inside the chicken coop, and as a result, the tipping of the water silo has reduced significantly. If there was room, I would put the other base in there to keep the bird seed on, the chicken food on. But it's alright. It's holding the water can for right now, and as I said, I will get around to getting some the water dispensing cups, so when they're out on the porch more, they'll be able to get to that large volume of water. Yesterday was a pretty decent day in terms of temperature. It was in the high 80s, bordering on 90. But for the Pacific Northwest, that's pretty hot, especially this close to the ocean. Now, we're not as bad as the Atlantic states, such as Virginia down to Florida, in terms of how muggy it gets. But it's pretty comparable, in the sense of discomfort. still take the Pacific Northwest over, the Mid-Atlantic any day, especially this time of year. Let's see. So the chickens, as you can see, they're doing well. They're progressing quite well. I'm very pleased with them. They've, they're hitting their 2-month mark. And the cats are quite fascinated by them. One thing I can honestly say that I was a little surprised about was the fear that seemed to be with the cats. So there's 10 chickens outside on the porch, and the cats were like, I'd like to go outside, but you have 10 dinosaurs blocking my way. I helped one get out there, and he didn't want to stay there for very long. He was out there for maybe 15 minutes, and then he came back in. So I don't know if that was the heat, or if it was their smell, or if it was just the fact that there was 10 of them and 1 of him. He does try to pet them, and when I say pet them, I mean literally. He just sticks his paw inside the cage. He doesn't bat at them. He just tries to, soft touch them. It's very fascinating to watch because you don't think of cats being in that, you think of them as pouncing animals, attack animals, nature's apex predator. You don't think of them as being soft or gentle, unless they're, trying to puncture an air mattress, or use you as a therapy ball, with their claws trying to knead you to death. In all seriousness, the cats are a little bit confused by the chickens because, 1, it's an invasion of their territory, and 2, they have no frame of reference other than seeing birds that they've seen fly around at a fraction of these chickens' size. So it's understandable. You have 12 animals that are almost comparable in size to them, and completely foreign in appearance. So I was rewatching, as I do with my recreational entertainment site, and I was thinking about how the news, whether whoever's in office and whoever's delivering it, because essentially the news is a psychological operation, a psyop. And the chorus, I know, you know, that I'm not telling the truth. I know, you know, they just don't have any proof. Embrace the deception. Learn how to bend your worst inhibitions into psych you out in the end. And this isn't the first time I've thought about it, but that chorus is a great commentary on society, on media. And it doesn't matter whether it's legacy media, whether it's people in positions of authority, whether it's your corporate overlord, or your government stooge, or your alt media personality. They all have some kind of vested interest in mucking it up and making things murky, obfuscated, making you not believe what it is that is actually being quote-unquote reported. And Tim Pool talks about often the time travel test. Go back 10 years, 15 years, pick modern, current events to anyone who would listen, and they would lock you up in an asylum or brush you off and say, neat movie idea. And could you imagine if you grew up in the 80s, which according to Psych is the best decade? I think they said Apollonia, Republicans, a few other things that they pitched. Yes, I'm talking about the episode with Anthony Michael Hall as the interim Harris Trout police chief. Yeah, fun times. Anyway, the time travel test. Right? Nobody would believe it. If you had your frame of reference from the 80s, you had movies such as, Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze. You had, Rambo with Stallone. You had Commando, Predator, Twins, Kindergarten Cop with Schwarzenegger. What was it? Taxi Driver with De Niro. Imagine, okay, and this is also the same decade you had Dolly Parton and Stallone being Rhinestone Cowboy. So, yeah, there was silliness also in the 80s. You had Burt Reynolds, you had, Dolly Parton, as I said, Smokey and the Bandit movies, for Burt Reynolds, and then 9 to 5 with Parton. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is think about that culture that existed. The going outside, playing in your yard, riding your bicycle through the neighborhood, dropping your bike, leaving it in your yard overnight, being chastised about if you're going to have a bicycle, you'll at least put the kickstand down and, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to have a bicycle, you're not going to leave it at your friend's house. You're going to bring it home. Things that kids do. Now we've gone from that level of a trust society where you could be gone all day and your parents are like, oh, you're finally home. Well, dinner's ready, or well, we already had dinner. Make yourself something to eat. Whatever, That disregard, that makes it seem callous and insensitive, which it wasn't. It was just the concept that kids were out there with their friends. If something were to happen, one of the friends would have alerted somebody as to what was happening. And and whatever parent was available would have responded most likely appropriately. So take that world of the 80s and apply it to now, that mentality, that time travel. Imagine not having the 90s to be desensitized and the early 2000s to be, insulated, and the 2010s and early 2020s to be traumatized. And look at all the things that we've gone through as far as lie after lie after lie. Read my lips. No new taxes. 1,000 points of light. Brave new, it's a new world order. I did not have relations with that woman. Bob Dole says America should fund a global school lunch program because Bob Dole said so. I mean, that was just the 90s right there encapsulated. And then you got the Coalition of the Willing. Sorry, that wasn't a good book, or even mocking of it. But you get what I'm saying. And then you look at things such as, you look at your dime. Take a look at your dime, flip the dime over, use a magnifying glass, and what do you see? You see a fasci. What is a fasci? A fasci is how they made an axe back in the day. It is a bundle of sticks, a coalition, if you will, to reinforce and to make stronger, to hold the axe head, so when you're felling trees, it will stay together. Anyway, that was just my thoughts and opinions on it. But like I said, I thought the the lyrics to Psych were appropriate. And it's one of those things where society has jumped the shark in the sense that, look at all the freaking psyops. They're not even original. They're reusing 1960s plans, such as Northwoods, in the 2000s. They're, taking movies and television show scripts and making it into reality. Society has jumped the shark. They've ran out original ideas, and they're playing it off, knowing that we know that they're lying. We just don't have the evidence or the proof to back it up. So I wanted to keep this short, something to think about, and let you know how the chickens are doing. Have a good day.